Konami Studios. Power Rangers issue number 3. The fun continues in this space vampire romper. It's a good book, man. I'm really enjoying this one. I think a little more than Mighty Morphin, just because it's in space, it's cool character designs. And I like Trini and Zach and Jason more than I like anybody else on the team. I guess Kimberly's cool. Billy's okay. But I've always been a fan of Trini. So that's where I'll just say that. Let's put it that way. I made that sound weird for some reason. Alright, so we open up this book. We are seeing the origin of the Horrid. They're like this advanced race that was like so hell-bent on finding the future and getting space travel that they accidentally blew up their own planet, and the radiation turned them into energy-sucking vampires. And we see that the leader of the Horrid is telling this story to Lord Drakkon, who is like, that's a great story, my lord, but you guys are probably going to be hungry soon, so maybe we should go feed you. First, we'll take out the Omega Rangers, then we'll conquer as many worlds as we can find. So we have to figure out how to get the Rangers eaten here, and that's kind of the story. Then we see that XI is kind of using his plan together. He gets Trini back into the spaceship, and he's like, okay, what are we going to do next? So we see all of our characters meet up. They're kind of like hiding out somewhere, and they're all trying to figure out a plan to get things together. Nobody really has an idea of what to do or anything to really figure itself out. Zach's kind of like, well, self-destruct is probably the worst option we could do, and Trini's trying to like justify maybe we should save Drakkon. Like, do we worry about him? He's the only way, like, information guy we have to get to the Imperials, so I don't know if we should save him or not. And I like that Trini's kind of being the voice of reason here, seeing that maybe we should help Drakkon. Maybe we should. But then it's XI, you know, that robot Alpha 5 type guy who's like, okay, I have a kind of a bad idea. It might work, it might not, but we could give it a shot. I mean, it's a plan nonetheless. And even Jason's like, well, I've been leader of this for long enough. Maybe it's time we see somebody else take the lead. So all of the Rangers and the big cat, I think they called it Yale, are standing in like this cargo bay. They open up the airlock, and the Rangers go outside to fight the horrid vampire creatures that are outside of the airlock. Kicking ass, they're taking aim, they're beating up their creatures, and the Horrid leader and Drakkon are watching like, huh, I guess your plan worked, Drakkon. I'm surprised it was working this well. It's like, oh, of course. Like, they're pretty naive. They'll do whatever it takes to do their thing. So we see all the Rangers fighting, and I know I say it every time, but the artwork in this book is just gorgeous. I love the lines. I love the design for all the characters. It looks really unique and different, and I'm a big fan of it. So the idea is we have to get Jason away from the ship so he can call his Megazord, and that's what he does. So he gets away from the group. He summons the power of the Omega Fire Ray, like Megazord, and you're like, that's cool. And suddenly the Horrid leader's like, what is that thing and why is it here? And so Drakkon's like, oh, it's just a Zord. We should get all of our resources on it now or it could defeat us. So all of the Horrid creatures go after the Zord, and they're starting to attack it, and they're fighting it. And you see that Zach and Trini are just holding off their own against some of the ones that are going after them. But the majority of the creatures are going after the Zord. And you see, like, okay, that's fun. That's pretty interesting. And then like Jason makes the force field so nobody can come in to attack him, but they're trying to break through, and it looks like all hope's about to be lost. All of our Rangers are pretty much losing a battle here. There's just too many of the space vampires that back in the ship. I love this part. I don't know why, I just like this part. It's like the robot just like freaks out. He's like, all right, I'm going to take you all down now, so maybe we should get this under control. And you see that Yale's with him too. And just the Horrid leader's just like, oh, you silly robot. You can't do shit to stop me. I will destroy this ship and the universe will be mine to bow down to. Then all of a sudden, in a shock to nobody, I would say, like I kind of was thinking this was going to happen. Drakkon just stabs him, kills the Horrid leader, and in classic suit, all of the hive mind like monsters, they just kind of like die. And you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. I get it. Like, of course, Drakkon was going to stab his back and become the ultimate villain at the end of the story. But we learned that the entire time Drakkon was feeding information to XI, and this was part of the plan the whole time, and none of the Rangers are really happy with it, and Jason kind of calls out XI about it too. He's like, I understand what you did, and I know why you did it, but I don't think the execution was perfect, so next time, maybe let's work on doing that a better way, so we just don't get into trouble with that. So that's kind of fun. I like this book a lot. I think so far, why I'm enjoying this one, it's very self-contained storytelling, but it's also like, here's the grander picture. We got to get to the Imperials at some point. We're telling our story, kind of Alien-esque, where these vampires come onto the ship and attack us. We're setting up some tension between the characters, mainly between Lord Drakkon and like the way it's dividing up the Omega Rangers. I think that's really fun to see. It's just got a different style to it than Mighty Morphin, which I'm really impressed with, actually, that the balance is so different, but still feels very familiar in those different stories. So I think that's really cool, actually. I'm very impressed with that. So we get some final pages here where Trini and Drakkon are talking just about like loyalty and what it means to work together, and how Trini will only trust him if he sacrifices himself to save the greater good of humanity. Something that we know Lord Drakkon will never do. So that's kind of where the book ends with the Drakkon stuff. But we see that they're about to enter to their new location. So Trini starts walking back to them, and as they get there, they look outside their window and they see a destroyed city of Angel Grove, which was the home of Lord Drakkon, and everything's falling apart. There's Zords all destroyed and crushed, being like obliterated kind of by this weird blue and red energy. And you're like, that's a weird place to leave the book off, but I like it. I think it's pretty fun. I'm very impressed with what this book is doing. I like it a lot. It's a fun space romper, like I said at the beginning, and so far, I've been very impressed with everything it did. I have no real complaints about this issue. I think it's setting up the tension really well. It's setting up the villains really well. The characters are all really well written. Everything about it is just perfectly executed. And I'm very impressed to say I'm enjoying a Power Rangers book. I still want to go back and read some of those other ones from Boom Studios, but if you're like me and you never really got into those and you want to start somewhere else with the Power Rangers lore, I think this is a great place to jump on. It's 3 issues in, and it's going to make you happy to see some of your characters in this new light than we haven't seen them in before in the comic books. So I think that is really fun and something a lot of people should look out for. So Power Rangers issue number 3, I am going to give an 8 out of 10. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.